We have Jim from Canon Electric joining us today. So thanks for hopping on, Jim. I know you're on mute. He's good to go. Awesome. And of course, we have Leanna and we have Robin. I know we're looking for BAM Designs. You mentioned he's going to be joining us here shortly.
Yep. I just texted him, so should be happening pretty soon.
Okay. All right. So do you want to go ahead and we can kick this off, and he'll join us when he does hop on? Okay. So we're going to talk about best practices with your Barter account here at Saturn. So we wanted to bring a couple people on and talk about what their success has been like and what type of tips that they have for us to share. One thing that I'd like to suggest or to add is, how us brokers at the office, how we interact with our members to support their success. And I think a lot of you as new members come to Saturn, you guys know there's a lot of information that we are here to help you with. The website is a really good resource, but the more you utilize us as brokers, the more you're going to get out of the experience of your exchange here with us. We make it the best we can. And when you guys are able to ask us for things, we're here to help you think outside the box. Things that somebody might need. Say, for instance, if there's a big desire that you have and there's something that we don't yet have, it's up for us as a team of brokers and salespeople to go out and to get those types of businesses. So the relationship between a member and a broker is so imperative that the communication is there. We reach out to people with phone calls, with emails, on Facebook, and those avenues to really make sure that the experience is the best possible. So I like to communicate with my members. With COVID, it's kind of hard with face-to-face, but more online, whereas it's a phone call or an email to really kind of dig deep onto what you need for your business. But also I like to personally find out, what they like as a individual, as a family, to help them realize that we're here to, create different avenues to help them. So the more we know about you, things on your, the next quarter for your business or something on a personal note for you and your family, we're able to understand what your needs are. And if there is something that's hot and new, that's limited, we know, hey, I'm going to call Jim at Canon because I know he likes to do these sort of activities. Or I'm going to call the owners of Want a Cupcake because they're going to need some things for their, for their children or things of that nature. So that's what I find I really like to do and like to find out more about you guys as members and how we can help with that. Ryan, can you talk to us a little bit about referrals and bonuses?
Yes, definitely. You brought up a good point as far as what we do as brokers. Initially, I think the conversation starts off very salesy in the sense of we sell you a membership, but as you start to become a member and you work with your broker, you start to find out and unearth deals out there in which you can use this tool of Saturn Barter to grow your business, which kind of goes right into the referral side of things, that this membership grows leaps and bounds just through us going out and prospecting and finding new companies and new products and services to bring to Saturn Barter. But as the membership kind of grows and becomes a little more tight knit, it becomes this kind of referral network of, hey, Ryan, a couple of my buddies own this restaurant and they always need things like hood vent cleaning, or they always need janitorial, or, my guy owns a landscaping company. And so from those conversations of, again, going back to the tool of what Saturn Barter is, the tool becomes much more of value rather than being sold a membership of Saturn. And we have found over the years that the referrals typically tend to become the better members in terms of they get it faster and they want to use it for a specific reason to kind of implement within their business. And, I'm sitting here with a couple members that we've met through networking groups, and just through that alone, it kind of builds that understanding of, hey, I didn't look at Saturn Barter in this light before, but I hear that, Brian with the plumbing and drain company is using it for X, Y, and Z, and I want to use it for this as well. So the referral standpoint of it is that's kind of one of the stronger points of what we do as a broker, is to just kind of bring this network together to kind of be of service and be of value for you all having a membership within Saturn Barter. So a lot of traditionally, a lot of what we've done for referrals or members that refer people over, you get $100 trade in your account for every business that you refer over to Saturn that signs up. And it's kind of blossomed and grown into a new sort of program that we're going to start rolling out here, hopefully by the end of summer, coming into fall, called the Ambassador Program, where member champions of Saturn, champion members, are kind of referring their business friends and associates and vendors and maybe even other clients out there to join this Saturn and gain knowledge of what it is they can do in the world of Saturn and organized trade. And I mean, as you all know, a lot of the new members that join, you typically want to go spend your trade out there with that new person, whether it's a restaurant or if it's certain services or products that you've been looking for, and now you can get it in trade. So the Ambassador Program is going to highlight a lot of these businesses that see the tool of Saturn for what it is, so we can continue to grow the membership internally and utilize it kind of in that realm. So the referral side of it, it's kind of like, what you do within your regular business out there. If in the cash world, right? We talk about in Saturn, the trade world and the cash world. The more, I guess, you can tie in your trade to not being any different than your cash world. You refer over cash clients because they do great work or they have great products, and same thing in the trade world. And the more that we have available to offer to you all, the better that the membership kind of progresses and grows naturally. So that's kind of been the fun part for me through my networking and meeting everybody, is kind of putting people together, and the referrals kind of grow from there.
Awesome. Thank you for that. That's a great way of, the contribution and how this business has grown tenfold with all these members, whether it's in networking or referrals. It just builds off of that, and we just love that type of momentum. I know, Josh, you wanted to talk more about how members can measure the success of utilizing their trade dollars.
Yeah, I think I wrote down just a couple of ideas here. So what I've seen work for my members is really kind of there's 4 ways that you could utilize and kind of measure the success. And I think that's something that comes up with a lot of companies is, I take on jobs, and usually there's about, each company has about 10% increase in sales that they can take on in any given time, for the most part. I mean, Jim knows that there's certain times in the summer that are a little bit more difficult to squeeze jobs in than others, but throughout the course of the year, there's about 10%. So we know that that's kind of the gap that is there for sales, and that's where Barter can kind of fit in. Sometimes it's more, sometimes it's less. But as far as measuring the success, what I've seen is there's 4 ways to that a successful trade is done. It's through, I see members of Saturn as partners, partners in business, partners in personal, and that goes beyond just taking on a trade through Saturn. I've seen that with partnerships in the media world that I'm a part of, where I've connected people together, and that's turned into a blossoming cash relationship. Outside of that, where they're able to build off of each other and grow their services and their products, which increase their cash potential out there in their portfolio. So cash referrals are huge. Take care of your Saturn guys. Make sure that you're tracking those referrals. It's so important. You guys, most companies should be doing it on their own, tracking where their referrals come from, thanking those people, sending out gift cards, things like that. So I noticed that the clients that see a lot of value in Saturn are the ones that track those referrals the most. They want to know where their clients are coming from, who's referring the most, and so on and so forth. Number 2 is decreasing your cash expenses. That's kind of the foundation of what I call should be your Saturn experience, or what am I spending in the cash world and how can I offset those expenses in cash, and tracking that accordingly. Your cash customers are going to stay those customers, but if you could decrease your cash expenses, then obviously that increases your bottom line and gives you more avenues to spend your cash where it can actually make you money rather than just paying bills. The third one I've noticed is increasing your budgets in revenue generating areas of your business. I see this as something that a lot of companies that I've seen kind of struggle with. in the construction world that could be subcontractors. I have a lot of my plumbers use my concrete cutters. A lot of my plumbers use landscapers. They're general contractors. You know, they subcontract out and trade, and they collect a cash check from their customer. That's turning basically your trade into cash, which is a huge benefit, obviously. And then from what I mentioned before, is expanding your portfolio, expanding your services and your products. Leverage what Saturn is, which is really a referral group of about 2,500 members just here locally, and that's anywhere from lawyers to contractors to you know, HR to safety consultants. I mean, there's a wide variety of expertise out there, and I think building those relationships just adds to your ability to build value to your customer base or even your own partners. The fourth one I really want to touch on is really tracking, for me, and this is the hard part, is tracking and finding what the value of your Saturn dollar is allows you to spend your dollars creatively, meaning what are the gaps of your budget in your business? Everyone's trying to run a business, and usually most business owners wear a lot of different hats, and there are gaps. There's either gaps in customer service, there's gaps in marketing, there's gaps in hiring, personnel incentives, vacation packages to, top earners. There's a lot of different areas where I think people want to increase their business. They want to get better at it. And I think there's a huge avenue in Saturn to leverage your partnerships to grow those gaps, to shorten up those gaps and grow those parts of your business where maybe you don't have the time, or maybe I don't have the budget to hire a marketing person and I got to outsource it. But that's something I can't do in cash as of yet, or maybe I want to do more in that arena. Use your trade to boost those budgets to increase that market share, and track them. If you're spending $350 a month on SEO, how much revenue is that generating for you? If you could track one Saturn dollar is earning, 10 times that in the cash world on marketing or advertising or even, employee retention, it's all money that goes out the door if it's not tracked. And I think that's something that is hard to do, but it's something that I think most businesses try to do anyways, find out where their money's going and, what's working, what isn't. So those are really the four areas that I've seen that I try to help my clients understand.
That's great.
Yeah, that's everything in a nutshell, right? I think you touched on a lot of different things that are really important for business owners. I know, Ryan, what growth or transitions has Saturn helped members through?
And we all, as brokers anyway, we work with 300 to 400 businesses each. So this answer is, changes just because everybody uses their money, whether it's trade or cash, differently. And so for us, being able to bring any additional value to a company through utilizing the trade system that we work in is kind of the goal of what we do. And so I think the best answer I have is probably an example of one of my guys. I just got signed up last year. And so he started his business in February, and I signed him up right at the end of February. And you all know, as members of Saturn, when you first signed up, you were calculating cash flow. How much is it going to cost me to do a trade job? And is this thing sustainable, and does it work? And so having that conversation with this particular company, who owns a HVAC company, heating and cooling, and, has the capability to go out and do a bunch, but just starting his business, it was very dependent upon this thing has to be sustainable and work well. So, we talk about a year later now, he's been a member now for a year, and he's done almost $25,000 in trade. Well, $25,000 in trade, and probably almost 20 in purchasing, in sales and purchasing. So close to $50,000 in business, and things like getting his vehicles wrapped, additional advertising, marketing, small stuff like uniform, all those things that added up over the course of this past year has created that value of why it's important to look at trade, as we were kind of talking about here, as the tool of Saturn Barter, and how it can help out with those transitions from growing into a business, a new business, to, now I've been in business for a year, and you can look back and go, well, I didn't, I saved myself almost $25,000 last year, my first year of business, by using this trade. So the transitions for us as brokers to kind of help people get to that next step, it changes, but all in all, it's the conversation. It's the fact that there's, X amount of people here in this room and 2,500 business owners out there who have access to this tool, access to this information, and, you'll apply it and use it as you see fit. But it's just kind of our position for everyone to kind of steer the ship and, allow them to press the gas and go as fast as they need to. So that's kind of my favorite part, is that in itself of, how can I help you take that next step or transition from using your trade to, you can use it to go out to eat, or you can use it to benefit and grow your business. So those are kind of the best parts of, helping through the transition, I see.
Right on. Thanks for that,
Yeah.
Brian. And then also, Josh, one thing that we talked about a little bit, how can business owners incorporate barter utilizing as part of a business plan?
I think this is the hard question, right? Most businesses that I find, they really spend the beginning of their business really focusing on their business strategy, their business plan, everything else that they have to grow their business. But as they get really into the thick of it, they tend to not revisit those things. And what I notice is a lot of clients, especially in the first year, 2 years that they're with Saturn, a lot of it is reactionary, which is normal. I mean, a lot of times people don't understand what we do or how we do it. And so what ends up happening is it becomes, my toilet broke, I need my toilet fixed. But I'll tell you, the most valuable part of Saturn is incorporating that into your business structure. Not only does it help you track your trade coming in, not only does it allow you to utilize your trade in really revenue, cash generating parts of your business. And I think really what it comes down to is you start with the values of your company. You start with the values, you start with what's important to you. If, customer service is very important to you, what are some gaps that you're missing? Is it, I can't always get to my phone, so I need a call center to pick up those phone calls? I know a lot of people shy away from that, but it's a very utilized part of a lot of businesses. And at the end of the day, it's all about your customers. And a lot of times that's something that is expensive and people don't want to do. I think really taking a deep dive into not only the executive part of what you do, as far as, the ownership agreements, restructuring those contracts, whether it be an attorney or whether it be employee incentives. There's times where I've had companies trash their dental program or their dental insurance because they're having to pay $700 a month for people that don't go to the dentist. And so they'd rather go to a pay-as-you-go type plan. And we put a whole structure together of, here are all the dentists that you have. Each employee had a certain amount of money that they could spend. And that saved them. I mean, they had 20 employees. So now they're utilizing their trade as really kind of their health savings plan is really what they kind of did. I know they couldn't say that, but that's really kind of what they did. So there's a lot of different creative ways that you can do it. And I think from my perspective, people put barter in a category over here and go, well, it's a small part of what I do. Therefore, I don't want to spend too much time. But I got to tell you, the people that do spend the time on it, they do dive into it. It pays dividends. If you can do this right, it will make you money at the end of each year, whether it's sales or whether it's purchasing. It can be done, but it really starts with your values of where you're at and, the gaps you have in your business and what you want to achieve. So.
Perfectly said. Thank you for that, Josh. I'm going to go ahead and turn this over towards a couple of our members. So today we have Jim. He's the owner of Cannon Electric. So thank you, Jim, for hopping on. I asked him to come on and talk about his experience with us here at Saturn. And I have a couple things that I wanted to ask him. But before I ask you any questions, do you have anything that you want to add or anything that you've heard today that you want to kind of pull together from your own experiences with Saturn?
Yeah, I can say we've been a member, first of all, since February of 2011. So I've been doing it for a long time. And in that time, our business has increased man, we went from just pretty much it was just me and a truck to now we have 17 employees. We're hiring 2 more here in about a week. So we've seen a lot of growth. And over that time, it's allowed us to do a lot of things, company outings. We've traveled on it. It seems like if I have a need, I go to Catherine first and just go, hey, I got this need, help me with it. So, yeah. And then it's helped me, you know, as a business owner, cash is king. So being able to hold on to your cash longer and use an account that doesn't come right out of the bank account is a nice feature.
It sure is, right?
Absolutely.
I always tell people, you know, before you open your wallet, do me a favor, call me. It could be something super simple or something robust, and you never know unless you call us and say, hey, you know what? I broke down. Or I had one member who has a restaurant, and she called me on a Friday evening. She was locked out of her house, and she had, you know, she had my number saved. So she said, hey, do you have a locksmith? You know, we're here to help you, whether it's something so small but so important, or something as large as, you know, a program like Josh mentioned for someone's dental needs, or go on vacation, or take your staff on a getaway of some sort. 2 things I have for you, Jim. How do you make the best out of your barter account?
So I'm probably the worst one to answer questions like that because the words don't get from here to here. But anyways, first of all, looking at what our needs are as far as business is concerned, and then also what our needs are as personal concerns. We get things fixed on our house. And so, but when I do have a need, I go to my broker first because I've learned that you know, sometimes there's things available that that she knows that I don't know are available, or sometimes we think there's things available that aren't available. And so going to her first or any of the reps first and seeing if the need can be fulfilled through trade. Also, I bring in a lot of trades, so I do a lot of jobs. So I have that account there available, ready to use most often, all the time. So.
Thanks for that. And then also one other question that you and I were trying to be creative and think about things. How do you leverage your Saturn broker, myself, as a resource who sees a lot of business owners? A lot of, I just lost my notes here. How do you leverage your Saturn broker as a resource who sees a lot of business owner experiences?
Well, I'm fortunate in that you reach out a lot to me and ask me if I have needs. So then I'm always trying to think of things, and we're going through a building phase right now. We've got a huge project trying to renovate a building, and so just looking at my list of needs with that building alone, there's all kinds of things. There's plumbing, there is sewer hookups, there's stormwater drain, there's, you know, you name it, it's a complete buildup. And so it's hundreds of projects there. I've got, you know, I've got family that, I've got grandkids in San Antonio, so I'm going to be hitting Saturn up for helping my grandchildren while they're in San Antonio. You just name it. There's a lot of opportunities. So.
And well, it's always a lot of fun to have an account like you that knows how to use it. And, you know, each day it's something different. It's a different challenge, a different request. And I think we all learn and we grow together, and we're able to, you know, get more things added to the membership, because if you need something, there's a good chance there's a lot of others that are also looking for that same thing, right? So thank you for, you know, being a part of this community. We all appreciate all that you do, and we love Canon, and your staff is just outstanding. So thank you.
Thank you.
And then I know we also want to hear from Doug with BAM Designs. So Ryan, did you want to introduce us to Doug and go over your questions too?
Or as I like to call him, Mr. BAM, branding, advertising, and marketing. Yeah, Doug and I, we met, what was that? It was probably 2 years ago now at the Ignite U, right? And yeah, it's just kind of funny how we came across each other. It's one of those things he heard about, Ryan and Saturn Barter through our networking group that we go to, and a lot of deals that would go down. And it seemed like almost maybe weekly I'd kind of pop by Doug and say, hey man, I got some graphic design requests. I'd love to throw one your way. And, it just kind of took that relationship building, but also it got to a point where I think we probably stumbled across something where it was like, oh yeah, I could do that in trade, or yeah, I have this I'd like to buy in trade. And so it kind of started off our relationship. So from there, I always knew that Doug was doing great work within our networking group. So I just was itching to get him into Saturn. And, I think that's been about almost 2 years now since you've been a member of Saturn now. So, or a year and a half somewhat. So it's good. Question that I would love for you to answer from a member's perspective. As a business owner, what do you do, or what do you want to do in trade, but you can't always do because of cash flow?
Well, I'm gonna twist that around just a hair, because like what you touched on is, you said that everyone uses Saturn a little bit differently, and there's a lot of people that use it for business, and that's where I kind of struggled at first. Is like I thought, okay, well, I have to use everything for business, but then you kind of figure things out as you go along. And it's like, well, no, you can use it for personal, and it's just as fine. And so, and I'm a fairly new business. I'm a little over 4 years old. And when you're a new business owner, like we've talked about before, you got to control that cash. You got to have the cash to keep things rolling, because you're paying yourself if you can. And so you don't have a lot of money for extra stuff. And so something I found that really helped out is that personal things that I let go for a long time, just because I didn't want to spend the cash, because you're just never sure, if you got enough. And then finally, I was like, I'm building up this account, and I'm like, you know what? I've gone without a garage door opener now for 5 years or so. I've been pulling it up, by hand. What am I doing? So I got the guys out there, they hooked up a garage door opener, and what a self-esteem builder to be able to fix things and get things, new stuff. And I was like, wow, this is awesome. And so then I hired an electrician to come out, replace some floodlights, and put a light in one of our closets, and my wife was ecstatic. And then we had a tree trimmer come out and trim some limbs that were, that could possibly fall on our power lines. And so, I was like, okay, that's great. I got that off my list. A stump grinder, he comes out, and he's taking care of these stumps that I've been, trying to dig out myself for years. And then, I got my wife's car detailed, and she was ecstatic about that. I'm doing a lot of the, building up the wife credit here, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And then, like, my two best customers are a husband-wife team. We took them to Macaluso's for a champagne brunch. And so that was kind of a cool way to, show appreciation to some good customers. And then, when this COVID thing kind of hit, well, how do you get through it? When you go to Ginkgo and you get like 3 cases of wine, you usually don't have money to buy a case of wine. Well, I got 3. And another thing too is like, I had to pick up my son from Boise and come back, and I just totally trashed my brakes going over the passes, and it was a massive expense. And I'm looking at the estimate, and I go, wait a minute, Barter. And sure enough, I got the brakes replaced in Barter, and it was like a huge godsend, because that was like money I just didn't have at the time. Mm-hmm. So, there's a lot of ways to utilize the Barter for good stuff.
Yeah, man. And you hit it right on the head with, just bringing back to the fact that everybody uses it differently. And so whether it's cash or trade, you all spend your money differently, and you use it how you see valuable or benefit for you. And so whether it is getting wine, whether it's fixing your brakes, whether it's, going, going to Australia and using your trade for that. Like there's so many cool things that have came across the table that we as brokers, we are there to say, hey, look, we have this available, but you know, to have one of our members snatch it up and say, I've been wanting to do this, or I've been needing to do this. That's the whole key. That's the whole goal. So it's great. You know, just like you're saying, just you grow with it, you learn with it, and you try to figure out how to plug and play. And there's no real wrong answer unless, you know, we don't have it. And we normally will say we just don't have it yet. So it gives us an opportunity to go get it. Appreciate that, Doug. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, those were some really good stories. So thanks for that, Doug. One thing, you know, I have a landscaper that I signed up years ago, and I remember at the coffee shop, and he said, you know, I don't know, I love the idea, I want the customers, but I don't know where I'm going to spend it. And I said, just let me work with you. And then fast forward a couple years later, you know, he found somebody special in his life, and he was going to get married. So he used his trade account for the entire wedding, and he invited me to come to, you know, be a part of that day. So we took care of the entire wedding, and he went to Fiji. And on the way back from Fiji, he stopped in Hawaii, and that was all on trade. And whenever I talk to a new member and they look at me and they say, Kat, you know, I get this, where am I going to go with it? And I can give them examples for just the business. And a lot of you guys will say, nope, it's just about the business. And some people, depending upon their industry, will say, well, hey, you know, I've got a family. I want to make sure I take care of things that have been low on the totem pole. But then it's fun when you guys, you know, it clicks. You know, it takes a few months, and then you guys just roll with it. And then we can tell all these other new businesses that come into the membership to say, hey, let me give you this example. And I love that type of story where you can say, hey, you know, look from where you guys start from and all the different avenues. It's just, you know, it's creative. It's fun for us as brokers because every day it's something different. And I think with all of us, I could talk to anybody at that office. You know, our passion is to really, you know, be that matchmaker and to connect you guys with different industries and people that just grow from that, whether it's in just trade or outside on a cash basis where you refer other people to your family and friends. So that's, I think that's the joy that we get a lot from us at the office.
Definitely. Well, yeah.
Yeah, so I want to make sure we open this up here to, there's other people that are on the line. Are there any questions? Are there any success stories, things that you guys want to add, any value that you've learned from today's meeting? Robin?
So I've been pretty quiet in my Saturn account for probably a couple years. And when David said, you know, there's this taco time, you want to get on it, then, you know, I thought, oh, that'll be a good opportunity to reconnect and see what's going on. I'm down here in Olympia. I live in back in Olympia again. I was out in Yelm for several years. And so I'm interested in just kind of reconnecting and seeing how I can make this work regardless of how many businesses are or are not down here. One of the things that I'm starting is a longevity membership. And I think that would be something that I could do really well with in Saturn to be able to generate Saturn dollars. And then just figuring out, you know, how can I potentially use Saturn dollars to help me promote that would be, and take care of any hiring needs or any of the different expenses that I might need is something I'd be interested in. And so Ryan, would you wind up being my broker again? Because Sarah isn't doing it?
Yep, right.
Okay.
I'm taking care of you. But yeah, we'll connect after this, and you can give me the lowdown on some of the information you got.
All right. Awesome.
Oh.
I would add too, we've been talking mostly about how we buy and spend our barter dollars, but just the fact that what I loved from the very beginning and the idea of the barter network is the ability to do a job for somebody and we both feel good about it. We've always, as business owners, bartered work, but in the cash world, pre-trade, it was always, somebody always felt like they were getting short end of the stick. You were trying to make it fit. Well, I'm going to do about $3,000 of work for you. What do you got that's about worth $3,000? And then at the end, you're like, did I overpay, or, or did I get the short end? And this way, with the barter, it doesn't matter. So
right.
It all comes out in the end. So
yeah, you bring up a good point where I talk to a lot of different members, and whether it's signing. Right now, I have a request for a McLaren. Somebody would like to spend their trade dollars on a McLaren, and initially, initially it's kind of a chuckle, and it's it's like, we don't have a McLaren right now, but as brokers, we're going to go out and try to find something. And I think initially when people pose that question of how am I going to earn my trade, how am I going to spend it, the other side is forgot about, as if it was just a sales thing between you and I. Whereas if we end up finding somebody who will sell a McLaren on trade, let's say they're going to have, $100,000 in trade off of one transaction, there's going to be a lot of value for that one company if we're able to bring them, hey, I need electrical work done at my house, or I need a rebrand, or I need to get X, Y, and Z done, and they can spend it in trade. And so it all kind of comes back to this full circle of, yeah, we'll try to get you a McLaren or a Lamborghini, or build you a house, or do any of these things, but it all comes back to this whole tool, this network of you're going to help somebody else save some cash on getting their stuff done just because they're able to sell you their Lamborghini or rocket ship or something of value in the trade world. So it's it's fun, man. It's great.
I'd like to piggyback on what Jim had to say, because I think that's really important. I've had a couple of examples of clients that I've connected. One in particular was I have a client that does countertops and cabinets and things like that, but he does them on a bigger scale. And right now he's doing Muckleshoot Casino, which is a big job. It's about $3 million to do all their cabinets and countertops and all that. So in talking with him, we started scratching the surface of, do you outsource anything? Do you outsource this? Do you outsource that? And when it came down to it, he outsources his countertop install. So I connected him with one of my clients that does countertop installs, actually 3 of them, and they bid competitively on it. And anyway, they ended up getting it. And that was roughly, I think, $500,000. And that was all cash deal that they had, just because it was all coming from the tribe and they had to vet them out, and it was kind of particular. But that was something that came out of an organic conversation with him that he didn't even think about, to utilize his Saturn broker to go, look, I have an opportunity here. Do you have a good countertop installer that can do something like this? So I really think Jim nailed it on the head, that whether it's a Saturn client or whether it's, no matter where the referral comes from, these things really turn into valuable partnerships. And that was a game changer for that countertop installer. So
this Monday,
so I really want to make sure that,
I must Monday.
You use your resource within Saturn.
There's some Dundee.
Make sure that if you have anyone, or even if it's cash trade, doesn't matter what it is, use your broker as a resource to plug you in with the right people at the right time. So.
Thanks, Josh. I appreciate that too.
No worries. Thanks.
All right. Anybody else before we wrap this up? Any other questions, concerns, comments, feedback? Anything that you'd like to see?
Anybody looking for anything other than a McLaren? We already got that on the list. So we're here 2 McLarens.
I'm going to have to go check my trade account now.
Well, Jim, once you have your building all done and you have that grand opening, we're going to have the next Saturn mixer at your place, right?
Oh, yeah, baby.
Yeah. Well, we'll all be there for the opening for sure, but that would be a lot of fun to have maybe a little mini mixer after this COVID thing is all done.
That'd be nice. Finally get out of the house.
Right? Yeah, that would be a blast. All right, well, that's all that I had here on our agenda. So thanks for making us a part of your day, and your feedback is of great value. If you guys want to see other topics on Taco Tuesday, let us know. We're here to, get this platform up and running and helping you guys, and, be able to coordinate and let you guys see each other. And, just like we're talking how Robin was, her eyes are open on different avenues and different things. And, Doug brings in a whole different mix of how he does his trade, and Jim with his success stories. There's a lot of value with these. So thanks for making this happen, guys.
Yes, you guys rock. Keep the
All right.
sound evolving.
I appreciate it. Thanks for your help, guys.
Will do. All right. Have a good day, everybody.
Thank you, David. I'll call you in a minute.
Cheers.
Bye, y'all.